Hi there, and welcome to another episode of SidekickTV. Today I'm joined by Melissa Benge. Melissa is a Managing Director of First Avenue Properties here in Christchurch and Co-Director of Ireland's Property Management, and as well as that, the President of the Canterbury Club, which is where we're filming again today. So Melissa, absolute pleasure to have you on board.
Thanks, is something,
Rick. Yeah, no, thank you. It's been something that we've been talking about for some time, and again we're going to have an update on the property market that we're experiencing at the moment. So it's hot on it's a hot topic on everyone's lips. Melissa, we'll start with please tell us, what are you seeing is going on? What's the current state of the housing market that you're experiencing?
Key thing, there's people out there being active, there's tenants, there's buyers, but the big shortage is on the other end, the landlords and the properties available for sale and for rent. So there's been a number of things influenced. Obviously COVID has influenced in terms of the sales and people coming back to New Zealand buying, but equally people getting in, first home buyers, the market's ripe for them to get in and be active. But landlords have also been selling a lot of stock for reasons of the Residential Tenancies Act and all of the compliance that's required for healthy homes. But none of that is insurmountable. It's all possible with the right expertise and knowledge. So it's interesting. That's reduced the number of rental properties available. We would usually hold about 11 or 1,200 in Christchurch City available for rent. We're down to about 860 at the moment if you look on TradeMe at any given time. So yeah, that's pretty low, and so that's going to affect the prices.
Yeah, certainly. And we were talking just before this video, weren't we, that what's the historic low of recent times?
Yes, well, post-earthquake we got down to 500 properties available for rent at one time, and yeah, the rents were pretty high as a result, but yeah, we're only 350 odd above that at the moment, so yeah, it's all potentially there.
Yeah.
Again, if we don't find some more rentals available. Yeah.
And we were saying as well, weren't we, that there's a bit of a snowball effect on these causes for this migration, legislation.
Yes.
What do you think are some of the bigger factors affecting supply? Is there a real keystone one?
I think possibly the legislation and compliance has been what we've heard from our customers a lot in terms of their reasons for deciding to bow out. They are concerned about their ability to manage a rental, but at the end of the day, the number of troublesome tenants that we end up having to try and get out is very minuscule when you factor in that you've done all the work to select the right tenant up front. It's actually not as big a risk as a lot of people perceive it to be, but that's one really big one. I think there's a lot of fear out there for some landlords and they've decided to get out, but then on the other side, on the sales side, I think you've got people making choices, lifestyle choices, and if you've come back from working in London or the States or somewhere in Asia, then do you necessarily want to go and live in another big city in Auckland? No, you might choose Christchurch for the beach and the mountains and all the wonderful things we have available to us.
Yeah, certainly. And the fact that, we've got a nearly new city, nearly new housing
safest
stock.
in New Zealand, right?
Yeah. And that, I think, is something that certainly a lot of the migrants back to New Zealand, they're doing it for safety. Yeah. So it has that strong effect, doesn't it? Yeah. So what are we experiencing then? So supply is tight and tough.
Yes.
The basic economist within me suggests then that's going to have an influence.
Absolutely.
What are we expecting price-wise for?
So rents will continue to go up, is our prediction. Because they are already, we're renewing tenancies, putting rents up, and the market is there for it. So that's good for returns for landlords. Not so good for affordability for tenants. In a number of areas. And then on the sales side, yes, the lack of stock, and we've still got people out there keen to buy. A lot of people attending open homes, good numbers. So yeah, that's definitely holding prices where they are right now in Christchurch. Yeah, from the recent growth.
Yeah, I appreciate what you say. Good for landlords, but unfortunately, they're not keeping any of that money because that's another legislative change.
That's right. There's another reason right there.
It's good for the IRD. So more rent coming in. It's not going to flow into the pockets of mum and dad investors. It's straight out the door again. Yeah. Do you think that in itself will have a direct effect on someone's property that broke even? Now actually it's going to lose $100 a week.
Yeah it could do, but I guess it's probably no different to a growth in interest rates in some regards. Like that potential is always there for any investor in the property market, and I guess it's a time bound thing, because it was only going to be a tax deduction benefit to a landlord for a period of time until you've got a freehold asset, and then that's gone anyway. So I guess we look at property investment as something that was always going to be a minimum 10 years, a long-term investment anyway, like a lot of investments. So yeah, I guess initially when that was announced, 23rd of March, it was like, oh, okay, didn't see that coming. But now I think the market is, and we're seeing a lot more investors back in the market taking interest and looking to buy. Seeing a lot more owner-occupiers too who are deciding to buy their second property, which talking to a lot of people doing rental appraisals and managing properties for people who are just renting out their first home and buying their next one, upgrading to a bigger home and renting out their first one. I don't know, that's possibly their accountants giving them that advice, and all sorts of people to say that this is a good retirement plan because that provides you with that passive income in your retirement. One day you'll have that rent coming in to help pay the rates and electricity and all of the bills that you have in your retirement that carry on.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly one of my goals that I share with a number of people. If I can retire with a number of freehold residential properties, they will, I don't know what a house will be worth in 30, 40 years time, but I'll have an idea that the rent will be relative to what it is now. So if you can have 3 or 4 freehold properties, and it's not easy, but with a good long plan and 30, 40 years to do it, actually it becomes less challenging. Yeah. And like you say, so you were saying earlier that often we can see people make some fairly knee-jerk reactions to that, can't we? What do you see there?
So, yeah, we see people make decisions like we have in recent months where they go, oh, this is all too hard, I'm getting out, I'm sell up my portfolio of rental properties. And we think that is a bit reactive. Have trust and engage an expert, I guess, is our recommendation. Engage a professional property manager, preferably a licensed real estate agent, because I think that we have standards that we need to perform to, not on the property management side, but I think that's, if you're already with a licensed agent, then at least you've got that standard that they're already having to perform to in terms of how they have a duty of care to buyers, the same way we like to do that for tenants as well. So engage an expert and save yourself the cost. We take over so many properties from private landlords where they've just been cost themselves $2,000-$3,000 and cleaning up a property after a tenant's left. Well, that shouldn't be necessary. There's a bond there, and that's what we do. We don't let them get away with that. We make sure they pay for the cleaning, pay for the rubbish removal, all of that. Those things that. Yeah, it's a shame. There's a lot of expenses that I think a lot of private landlords suck up, and they never actually chase it down and deal with it because they've become too close to the tenant sometimes. Yeah. Intermediary.
And that's it, isn't it? So, where their options are now, let's sell up, then I'll have all of these expenses to tidy up before you can sell. So there's a loss there. Then what we're seeing globally is cash is not generating good returns.
No.
Property is still generating a relatively good return. And so people are then hamstringing themselves for their retirement by cutting off the passive income.
Yeah, exactly. And then what are you going to just deplete that capital that you've got sitting in the bank? Or
houses shouldn't erode in value if they're still there.
That's the beauty of bricks and mortar. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what would be your advice to people now that are, perhaps it's different stages, but people that are already in property, they may have their own home, they may have, say, a rental. What do you think is probably some strong suggestions that they could do or look to improve the situation, despite all of these changes? And there might be increases in interest costs and less deductions, and what do you think is a bit of a rounded approach for them?
I think all around you, engage with the experts. So talk to an accountant that knows their onions and can get the best benefits for you accounting wise. Don't try and manage that yourself. I've done that, tried to do it myself, and I did it for 1 year, I think, and then just handed it over to an accountant. I couldn't believe the difference in returns for me as an investor.
Well, I'd back that advice up, obviously.
Of course, Rick. But equally, get a if you're looking to sell, get a licensed agent, because with a licensed agent, rather than trying to sell it yourself, you are engaging more protection. There's so many acts, Privacy Act, Consumer Guarantees Act, you name it, just so many Contracts Act, so many acts that influence what happens in a real estate transaction. A licensed real estate agent can protect you from all of that because they take that hit. They're professionals, they know how to manage that. And equally on the property management side, I think a tenancy agreement has turned into a 14-page document. It used to be like a 2-page document with all the compliance and insurance and smoke alarms and all of the healthy homes data that we need to collect and publish within every tenancy agreement to be compliant with the Residential Tenancies Act. It's now a 14-page document.
Wow.
So there's a lot there to know. There's a lot of fish hooks and bits and pieces that you can get tripped up on if you don't know. And
then there's quite severe penalties in getting that wrong as well, isn't there?
There's about 2 or 3 pages of lists of exemplary damages fines that, And the other thing that a lot of punters don't know about that is, if a tenant takes you to court because they don't believe their insulation is up to standard and they've popped their head up in the ceiling and had a look, taken some photos, they can then make an application to tribunal and you can be fined up to $4,000. That money does not go to the government like a parking fine or Ministry of Justice fine. That goes into the tenant's bank account. So they're
incentivised to catch you out.
There could be if they're wary enough or concerned enough. And I think Healthy Homes has been a great thing for New Zealand properties because tenants are now in warmer homes. It's a good thing. And when tenants are in warm, comfortable, nice homes, they won't move around as much. So this is great for your investment. Long-term tenants, they'll sit tight. That's the way we look at it. And I know that there's been a bit of capital investment and landlords having to put their hands in their pocket to meet the requirements. But at the end of the day, I think once it's done, and let's move forward, and we'll have happy landlords, happy tenants, and it'll be a good result. And of course, with the supply and demand we were talking about earlier, the returns help recover some of those costs.
Yeah, great. So there is actually a bit of a bright future still to people wanting to own and hold property.
It's exciting, absolutely.
The markets, the potential market of buyers has grown, the supply has shrunk, and you've less competitors in the market now as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's kind of the perfect storm.
It is. And then add in all the repairs and all the standard of housing we have in Christchurch now, which devastatingly, we didn't need an earthquake, right? But actually, if there's a silver lining, then that's it. We've got homes that are repaired, they're structurally sound, a lot of newer homes, so we're very fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. Well, that's great to hear. So, it's actually from a lot of doom and gloom and a lot of fear that I think so many people have had. Fantastic to hear that actually there's an upside. So, perfect. Look, Melissa, thank you so much for joining me for this. It was really insightful. So, for those of you that are interested in property, and especially if you're based in Christchurch, we'll post Melissa's details. And you can get in touch, and hopefully that's cheered your mood if property is your game. So thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.